After months and months of reading various rumors that the natural Chrome XL from Horween had been discontinued, it has been confirmed that both Alden and AE are no longer receiving the leather to make shoes or boots. To be clear though, this has not been confirmed that the natural CXL has been discontinued, but rather just that these two shoe companies are not going to be using it anymore. It's still possible to get this color from some other companies. It may just be that Horween can no longer produce this leather at a high enough volume for both AE and Alden, and perhaps that's the reason why other smaller shoemakers can get their hands on it. Natural Chrome XL leather is probably my second favorite casual leather behind olive. While I do own some other natural Chrome XL shoes, such as the 9501 from Alden and a pair of McTavish shoes from AE, most of this video is going to be focusing on two boot models, the first being the Higgins Mill original in natural and the Alden 45625H models. I actually started making this video in January, but I happened to get a little bit of cooking oil on my boots, and I just bought these boots in December. I'm not sure how this happened, but you all should learn from my mistake. I can almost guarantee that this will happen to every man at some point in his life. Porter & Sons put out this nice video where they demonstrated this product that removes oil from stained leather. However, in his video, he shows a stain that was created on the same day. In my situation, this stain was 3 weeks old. It was not possible for me to get my hands on this stuff any sooner, as I had to be patient with shipping, and also there appears to be a shortage of this product in general. As you can see here though, in the after, it did a good job of removing the stain, although if you look carefully you can also see that it removed some of the natural Chrome XL color because CXL contains a lot of oils in it. I think it might actually work better on leathers that are not CXL because there's already a lot of oils in this leather. What I would do is use something like some kind of tape that will not damage the leather, or some kind of paper where you can make a border, put it around the stain so that you don't get it on the unaffected part of the boot. You spray it on, you leave it to dry overnight, and then the next morning you brush it off. You may have to do this 3 or 4 times or more, depending on how old the stain is. In my case, I think I did it 4 times. Overall though, this product did a great job on a stain that was 3 weeks old. Now, onto the boots. With the Higgins, I'm a big fan of this boot. I took my usual size, and it does mostly fit how you would expect it to fit. The 1757 last is what I would call an inclusive last, and I would expect that most men would be able to get this to work for their feet. However, for me, I wish it had a little bit more room around the ankles. The room in the toe area is definitely fine for me though. The instep room is also not highly accommodating, so I get a fairly wide lacing gap, although it's acceptable. It's better for me to go up a half size in this boot, although I think for most people you probably want to start with your usual size. It should also be noted that there is variation in size with this model. My brown pair fits a little bit smaller than my natural pair, and this is quite common from what I've heard. Like many of AE's most comfortable offerings, the Higgins also has a flat pour-on insole, or you can just think of it as like a full sock liner. And it also has a double midsole, which makes a big difference in how the shoes feel. It provides better support with the day-night than just a regular day-night sole. It's a super comfortable boot, and although it's not a perfect last for me, I can say for most people this boot will fit beautifully. It's also very practical for me by having the day-night because I like to be able to use these when it's wet outside. Just be careful with day-night in wintry weather because it's not the best sole for really slick conditions, as I've learned. And even some wet surfaces like concrete can sometimes be really slick with this sole, so just be aware of that. Would I change anything about this boot? Just one minor thing. I would change the stitching from brown to beige on the outsole. I think it would match the laces better, which looks really good. I really like how these beige laces work with the natural Chrome XL. Speaking of these laces, these are actually from Alden. I recommend Alden laces over AE because they're going to fit through the holes better, and you're also going to be able to lace them more snug because the laces are more forgiving. Now with the Alden, it's rare when something highly exceeds my expectations in the way that this boot did. This is the 45625H boot built on the modified last. If I had one complaint about Alden in general, it's that I wish they would name their shoes and boots something other than a style number. When someone asks me what boots these are, I cannot even remember what the number is. With that aside though, this boot feels like it was designed for my feet. The modified last is described as being designed to fit the natural shape of a person's foot. I would say this is partially true. If you have a wide ball and you prefer a snug waist and heel, then this is a boot that will probably fit you well. The boot locks me in well at the heel, and the upper cradles my feet in a way that the Higgins does not. Another very important difference between this last and the 1757 of the Higgins is that it has a lot more instep room. I get much better closure when lacing on this boot, and because of the extra room in the ankles, I do not have any irritation at the area like I did on the Higgins. It's not quite as wide as the 1757, but it's a little deceptive in how it looks. You might look at it and think that this boot is not wide enough, but there's plenty of width in the ball. Now, it should also be pointed out that sizing on the modified last is different for probably most people. I went with the same size as the Berry last, and that's what a lot of people recommend, which means that I went down a half size, and I don't think I could go up to my usual size because I'm already getting a very generous fit with this boot. I do believe the 1757 is a more inclusive last that I think will work for more men. If you like the 1757, you should also consider the Alden Berry last, which is similar in shape. Another obvious difference between the two boots is that this one uses a flat welt and a 270-degree welt instead of the 360 that you see on the Higgins Mill. The flat welt automatically makes the sole more sleek, but also having this 270-degree welt makes the heel stack even more slim. You will notice it's a little bit smaller than the Higgins Mill heel, but it doesn't cause me any problems when I walk with it. You will also notice that the waist of the sole is very narrow on this boot. You might be concerned about this too, but it has not affected me at all. So if you're looking for something that's a little more sleek than the Higgins, this is a great option. Of course, it's important to note that one of the biggest upgrades with Alden is that their leather soles are much higher quality than AE. They look great, they feel great, and they just last a long time. Of course, this comes at a much higher cost. And again, if you do want to wear these in rain, it's probably not the best option, and I would rather choose the Higgins for that situation. One of the things you should know about Natural Chrome XL is that it's going to get dinged and blemished over time, and there's really not a lot you can do to prevent it. However, there's really not much you need to do to maintain them. All you need are a couple of conditioners. Allen Edmonds has leather lotion. I use Bic 4 most of the time. A lot of conditioners are fine, but just make sure you avoid anything with wax. This fine Saphir product is excellent for calf leather, but you definitely do not want to use it on Chrome XL. It's going to change the finish, and it's really difficult to get it off. Don't ask me how I know this. Which one is more comfortable? I feel it's a tie. Now, the Higgins is a little bit more forgiving on your toes because of the pour-on insole, but the Alden has the advantage of better support in the heel with the steel shank. Bottom line here is you're not going to be disappointed with comfort on either one of these boots. Which one has better finishing and materials? Definitely Alden, as you would expect it being at a much higher price point. For example, the lining is a lot softer and better on the Alden, and the heel cup feels a lot sturdier than the Higgins. The cuts of the leather are also more consistent than the Higgins. That's not to say they were perfect though, as both boots did have dark spots on the toes, but I didn't really care about these because they're barely noticeable. With the Higgins, there was a lot of variation with how this boot turned out. Some looked really good, while others looked pretty rough. My pair came as a store return that had some loose grain, and it looked like somebody wore these on carpet for a day and decided they were the wrong size. I've seen other pairs though that look stunning. So there was a lot of variation within this model. This is perhaps why AE might have wanted to get away from the natural leather, because There may have been some customers that may have complained about the variation. I should also point out that I have a brown pair that has aged beautifully over the last 4 years. The creases on this pair do not bother me at all. They don't look bad. I'm very pleased with how these have aged. Which boot is better? I cannot give an absolute answer. While the Alden is made better without a doubt, I think it comes down to the factors I mentioned, such as which last works best for you, do you intend to wear them in the rain, and does extra room at the instep help or hurt you? If I had to choose just one, I would choose the Alden, but that's because the last and the extra instep and ankle room is a lot better for my feet. The Higgins has become one of AE's most popular boots, and for very good reasons. There's really not much I can say to criticize about it, and its sales record speaks for itself. There are numerous variations of this boot, so there's pretty much something for everyone. Lastly though, even though AE and Alden are not producing shoes with the original natural CXL, AE recently started offering this darker natural. Sure, it's not the original color. It sort of looks like what you would expect natural to eventually look like after many years of wear and tear, but it's a more consistent color and the leather seems to have less issues with loose grain. Also, in regards to the Higgins, I have a suggestion for Allen Edmonds. They are currently offering this trunk show for sneakers where they have lots of different options, and I really applaud them for doing this, at least in terms of the options that they are giving. I personally don't really care for the Allen Edmonds sneakers because if I want something like the Strand, I'll just get the Strand Mock, or if I want something like a casual Park Avenue, I'll get the Overlord. I feel like their casual options already do a better job, and these sneakers are just not what I come to Allen Edmonds for. However, I would like to suggest to them they should consider having a Higgins Mill trunk show where they have all of these options or most of these options available. It would be a huge hit. I know a lot of people who are big fans of the Higgins, and I don't see how they could go wrong by doing this. I mean, if Allen Edmonds offered a Higgins in olive leather, that would be pretty much impossible for me to say no to that. I want to conclude this video by saying that if you do come across anything in natural CXL from AE or Alden, now is probably the time to act. The remaining inventory may be limited, and there's no guarantee that they're ever going to offer this leather again. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.